I just want to make this quick video. Didn't script anything. I got a question from a friend of mine, Cody, that he's starting in airbrushing and didn't really know how to go about it, and other than priming miniatures. So we're going to show him here. I know you don't have an Eclipse. This is what I use, my Iwata Eclipse. I've been using it for years. I got a Iwata Neo Air compressor. It's real small. It's only like 5 to 15 psi. So it's not a crazy setup. Of course, you're gonna need a thing of water. I use Vallejo's Airbrush Flow Improver. It is in essence just a drying retarder. I always throw a few drops in there. I don't know if it's just to make me feel better or it actually makes my mix better. But in any case, it always goes in there. So what I'll do is I'll start with it's a little bit of water in there. Get a better idea. It's really not a lot. I mean, we're just doing a small miniature. I'll put a couple of drops of Flow Improver in. Just depends how fast you're working. And then this is where things get a little interesting, for a simple fact that I want to get the mix right. So just put in maybe 2-3 drops of paint. What you want to do is just take a brush you really don't care too much about, start stirring things up till you get it to look like, I don't know, like skim milk consistency. I know it's an old cliche when it comes to airbrushing, but you want to drag it up just to see. There we go. So it's not too thick, it's nice and runny. If it's too runny, you start running into wash territory, which this kind of is, I guess. I mean, these terms are so interchangeable sometimes. It's still fairly opaque, but it's runny enough that it'll just go right to the airbrush. Now, I found that mixing stuff in the pot of the airbrush, like directly in there, like, jamming things down, mixing it up, I've had more clogs that way than ever. I usually just kind of like backflow, put your finger in front of the airbrush, and stop it, and then hit some air, just shoot through it, and it'll backflow it, just kind of clear the clog. But that's not the best thing for your airbrush and your compressor and everything. I mean, it's not going to kill it, but it's not doing any good either. So this, you've got a good, consistent mix now in here. There's no, pigment settling anywhere. We've got this nice and mixed up in here, and from here, let's wash that out. And from here, you can just squeeze that aluminum tin and just pour in what you need for right now. And then you can set this aside. Now you can add inks, more paints, whatever, change your tone and your color. But for right now, let's just kick on the airbrush compressor. Might be a little loud. And from here, it's kind of hard to pick up on camera. It's flowing real nice. So we'll just get the miniature. I mean, you really don't need a lot of paint. This is a lot more air than paint. I'm gonna say like maybe 25% pull on the trigger, and it's nice and smooth. It's not spider webbing. Yeah, this is a little on the runny side, especially for a miniature like this. I'll do it on the bottom to show you. But it builds up really nice. And that's the other thing. This isn't a speed paint thing. Even with an airbrush, I want to build up layers so you don't clog detail, you don't get spider webs, you don't get anything pulling up. Just go over it a few times and it will build up real fast, real nice. So that's all you really have to do, man. If you want to change, and turn this compressor off. Yeah, if you think this is too runny or whatever, set your airbrush aside. And then just add... Come on, there we go. Bit more paint. Mix it up again. So this is obviously a little bit thicker now. It's hanging on to the tray or the pan, whatever you want to call this thing. But you can see it still flows real nice. It's really consistent. Anyway, the point is, I'm starting to learn. I hate mixing straight into the airbrush. I'd rather do this. And now I can just take this, just dump it. Just dump it out into a cup, and then reload with the new mix. Compressor going. Yeah, now it's really, you can see it right there. It's really coming out. So let's get this guy. I think I kicked the compressor up to 15 psi now, so it might be a bit different, but same idea. Thin layers. Trying on something that's already primed. This is the base for another miniature. So if you just want to do just really start building up nice and slow. I know there's a lot of quick tips and tricks and, cheat codes out there that people want to use for getting things done quick. Well, there really are no true shortcuts. There's gimmicky nonsense out there, but that's got its place. As far as base coating, all that, you just want to make your mix a little thicker. The whole point to doing this is to keep consistency of your mix. I'm starting to learn I just don't like mixing the pot anymore, straight in the airbrush, because I could be jamming pigment down past everything, clogging it up. You really don't get a lot of room to work with. So these things are like $100 for like $4 or $5 on Amazon. And the cool thing is too, get something to rinse this out into. Since they're fairly hydrophobic, you can just, if it hasn't dried yet, I mean, these are pretty reusable. So they're not exactly 100% disposable. I mean, you can use one. I've been using the same one since these things came in the mail. So there you go, man. Aside from that, make sure every time you airbrush, you just keep the tip clean on the needle and clean out the pot, run some alcohol through it. It's just some isopropyl alcohol. And that's it. Yeah, so that's my whole thing. Use these little trays to pre-mix your paint and keep your airbrush clean.